Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome to the Average Joe Dividends YouTube channel. If you've been following this journey, welcome back. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe so that you do not miss future videos. Also, please click the like button to help grow this channel and get the word out on dividend growth investing. Getting paid just for owning stocks, this is what dividend growth investing is all about. In this video, I'm going to show you my dividend tracking spreadsheet here. It's just a simple Google Docs spreadsheet, and I'll leave a link below to this, and it's free. I've used services before, some free, some you have to subscribe to online, and I've also used like an app on a phone, but I always wound up going back to my own tracking sheet. And my own tracking sheet, while it's simple right now, it was more sophisticated before, where I actually use screen scrapes and scripts to pull some of the information like ex-dividend date, as well as the current quarterly dividend and other data. But what would happen is that it would really bog down the load time for the sheet. And when this sheet loads, it's really simple. It loads in a second or two, and it's pretty reliable. I'm gonna walk you through everything, because I know some people have had questions in the comments, because in my videos I go over this to show you my dividend portfolio and the things that happen with it weekly, as well as my monthly dividends. So let's just get right to it. And the first column obviously is titled company. I have the right here, Apple. This is the first company stock I have, and then you can see the ticker symbol, put that right there, and then I have the share price, and there's a simple Google function we can see right here where it's looking at what's in cell B2, and then it's returning a function called price, which is the price per share. And then over here for shares, this is not hard-coded. You can see these cells are hard-coded. So if you were to use this sheet, you'd have to hard-code this, and you could use this function right here. That would absolutely work. If you change the ticker symbol, it would just return the cost for whatever ticker you put in B2. It would put it in this cell for C2. But it gets a little bit trickier here with the shares. And what I did in the old days when I had less positions, what I would do is every time I did a buy, I would just update my number of shares manually. I would either copy and paste or type in the number of shares myself. And to me, that got tedious, because some weeks I was buying 10 or more different positions, and I was inputting shares for 10 or more positions, and that just got a little bit tedious. So I decided to come up with an easier way, and that was to use a VLOOKUP. And what it's doing is it's pulling data from the M1 data tab I have right here. I'll click on it and I'll show you how I created this and what it's pulling from. You can see what I do is I do a paste into cell A1, and I'll show you on my M1 stock brokerage account. I go to the holdings tab, and the data I select is right here with all my positions. I just start at the name, and I go all the way down. I select all the data. These are all the positions in my portfolio, and I do a copy, and I go back to this page and I do a paste, special values only. And what this is doing is it's pulling values that I want to carry over to the dividend portfolio page, and that is for shares and cost basis. So I don't have to keep updating those. Those are right here on this page. Let me go back here to portfolio. Must have clicked something there. Holdings, there we go. So the two things I'm really pulling are the number of shares and the cost basis. And I'll go back to the M1 data tab, and I'll show you how I pull that, because everything is pasting into this single column at A, and you can see the data is very messy. And you can see SCHD is right there, and there's the number of shares, And then there's my cost basis. And you can see where SCHD, I want to align that. I want to align the shares, which is off a couple rows. You can see it's an A13, so I copied that value over there, and I copied everything down. And I did the same thing for cost, where I put in A equals A15 and copied everything down. So what it's doing here is, with the addition of columns B and C, I've aligned now the shares for SCHD and the cost basis all in one row. And it's actually done it for all positions, for BST, JEPI, etc. Now, I don't know if you have a different stock brokerage account. I would have to take a look at the data in your holdings tab and see how it could be extracted. So this right now, this sheet is really set up for M1 users, but if someone wants to be a guinea pig, if they can maybe email me kind of what they have in their portfolio with just kind of a copy and paste. Of course, make sure there's no account numbers or personal information in or anything like that, because I don't need that. So that's what's happening here. I'm extracting the shares and the cost. And you can see right here, it's just doing a VLOOKUP, and it's got the table here from the M1 data tab. And you can see how it's pulling it right there. So all I have to do is a simple copy and a paste, and I update my shares and cost basis just like that. And we'll go to the next column. We have the gain or loss for each position. You can see Apple I've done quite well in. You can see Amgen or Pfizer, I'm down in those positions. Even Fidelity National. There's more, but overall I'm up. I have more winners than losers. I think if you have a well-diversified portfolio, you're going to have both winners and losers in it. You can see here now the dividend per share. This is hard-coded, and I'm going to show you where I get that at. There is I have a couple links below on this sheet. I'm going to scroll down and show you where I look up dividend raises at this link at Seeking Alpha, and also dividend declarations, and this is where I get it over here at dividendinvestor.com. Of course, there's many other resources out there you can use, but these two seem to be really up to date. They're free services, and they're fairly accurate. So I'm going to show you for Apple. You can see we're at 24 cents, and what I do is I pull this data, I pull the 24 cents you can see here, and then we can see here's the dividend pay date, but you can see on my sheet it's going to say May 19th, and the reason for that is M1 has a 1-day delay, and I put the dividend date as in when I receive the money into my account. So that's the way I look at that. We'll take a look at the yield. You can see how that's calculated, the yield percentage. This is Apple's current yield at their current share price of 24 cents based on their share price right now. Just under 0.5%. My yield on cost, you can see there's 0.72%. And again, here's the dividend date, which I look up. And you can see here I have everything arranged here. I have it sorted chronologically from you can see let's take a look here. Yeah, I have it sorted A to Z from, so you can see my May pairs are right here, and then goes all the way down to the latest ones that I've announced. And what I do is I will go look at dividendinvestor.com, and I'll type in whatever the symbol is, and I'll check to see if they've announced their new dividend date, and then I'll update it here. Of course, plus 1 day, because I want to know exactly when I'm going to receive that money. And the estimated dividend, you can see this is based upon, it's just as simple, it's multiplying the shares times the current dividend per share, and this is quarterly. So the next time when Apple announces their new dividend date, it's going to be around August 19th plus 3 months, because Apple pays every quarter. It's going to be $3.01 is what my next dividend is going to be. But that's if I don't buy any more shares before the next ex-dividend date. You can see the ex-dividend date here. The last one was. So, and if you're new to dividend investing, what the ex-dividend date means is the owner will get paid the dividend on May 12th or back on May 12th. So if you would have bought Apple stock on May 12th, you would not have received the dividend. You would have had to have bought it the day before the ex-dividend date. So if you bought after or the day of the ex-dividend date or after, you'd have to wait until the next dividend payout 3 months later. You can see here I have a column here right up here. It's blank for dividend. I reserve this column for the dividends within the current month, and you can see I have these all color coded. You can see a medium green, a dark green, and here's the light green as well as blues. And I have a color key. The light green is for the first month of the quarter, and the medium green is for the second month, and the darker green is for the third month. We're in July, so we're in the first month of quarter 3, and the blue, that signifies my monthly payers. You can see I have JEPI, Agree Realty, Realty Income, and BlackRock. Those will pay me each and every month. And you can see dividend per share. I have those in purple. We look at the key here. These are variable dividends. And of course, a lot of these companies, I have dividend growth stocks in this portfolio for the most part, so they technically are variable as they increase their dividend, but something like an SCHD or JEPI can lower their dividend as well as raise it. So I've seen both ways with both of these here, so I kind of mark those in purple just to kind of show that. And you can see back to the dividend, we can see the dividends I've received so far for July. I'm at $277.73, and it's kind of neat to see. On some days I get paid multiple dividends. You can see on the 5th I received 1, 2, 3, and the next day I received 2 more. The next day after that I got 1. Next day after that got 1, and there was a space of a couple days, and you can just see every couple days. You can see here was a span where I didn't receive 1 for upcoming is going to be in a week. You can see I've marked that. So tomorrow, technically I've received it, but M1 is going to transfer this to my account tomorrow. I'll wake up tomorrow morning with 2 dividends, one from Cisco for $9.61 and one from Oracle for $4.61. And of course what I'll be doing is I will be reinvesting those dividends or dripping them right back into that investment. I'll move on to the next column. You can see dividends paid, and what I've done is, there's probably a better way to track this, but I've got all the dividends I've received from Apple, and I've just listed them. I just keep adding them on. You can see my first one was 87 cents. Got a couple 87 up to 93, $1.09, $1.09, $1.28. You can see it just keeps going upwards. And while Apple doesn't pay much of a dividend, their stock has done well. So you can see the gain or loss also includes N2, which is the dividends. So it counts the market value or the increase of it, as well as the dividends as well. So for me, having Apple, even though with that low $3 a quarter dividend, it's worth it. You can see here by this gain or loss for me. And here's another thing I track too, is the last increase percentage. We can see for Apple it was 4.5%. We can see who was it? Yeah, Costco, 13%. Of course, usually your lower yielders are going to be paying these higher increases. So over time, as long as they maintain these increases, you're going to see your yield on cost grow over time. We'll take a look at some of these, and some of them have zeros, where they have not increased their their dividend. You can see SCHD, that's variable. That's the reason for that. But if you look at the cumulative year, there will be an increase. And we'll take a look at like Digital Realty. They did not have an increase over the last year. Looks like NVIDIA as well. I'm not complaining with NVIDIA. You can see my cost basis and then my gain just on that one. So I'm not really too worried about it. And you can see the dividend's very low. This is primarily a growth stock to me, of course. And then the last column I track here is the increase month. And when there is an announcement of a dividend increase, I put what month that occurs in usually. We can see here. Let's see. I know there's some I'm awaiting an increase from. American States Water has not increased their dividend yet for July. Same with Hershey's. And I believe there's another one. I'm probably going to skip over it. Yeah, I did. Kellogg's. So those three, I'm expecting a dividend increase from those. So that's kind of just gives me some awareness of that. And also track it too, because I think this is important that with the dividend growth stock, that they're growing their dividend. I know I give a little bit of leeway to some of the stocks. If they're paying me a really high dividend, I'm a little less apt to frown upon it. When it's like an OHI, they haven't increased their dividend for some time now. But you take a look at their yield percentage. The current yield is 8.33. I'm yielding 9.6. You add in the dividends and everything, I'm up 541 with them. So you can see in August I'm slated to get 54 or 64 in dividends from them. It's going to add just that 54. It's going to add over a share and a half just in a dividend drip on that, and just keep on increasing that. So I think I'll hang on to OHI, even though they're not growing their dividend, but their dividend seems to be safe, at least for now. So I think I've gone over all the columns. You can see, as well as the color key. You can see here, this is the total market value for the portfolio. So it tracks this. I don't have to go into M1 all the time, and yep, I'm still here. I don't have to go and look up the values. Of course, there's going to be a little bit of a disconnect because M1 is pulling probably from a different source than Google. So, but approximately it's going to be the same, so I don't have to look up the values. You can see here's my cost basis into the portfolio. Here's my gain or loss. Also, here's my yield percentage on everything that's in my portfolio if I'm to purchase more shares. And here's the yield on cost of what's in my portfolio. And this is the quarterly. For every quarter, I've added up all of my stocks here. And I've also, it's a little bit tricky if you have monthly pairs. If you just count them up as in quarterly, you're going to be missing out on 2 months of all these monthly pairs like JEPI, Agree, O, and BST. And of course I could use some math to multiply it by 3, their dividend. But the problem is once I sort these columns, it's going to move those things and disconnect that. So I had to create a table here, monthly paying stocks array, just so I could look it up. And this just does a VLOOKUP on this sheet, a BST, and it returns the value from this table. And then I get a monthly total of those. And what I do is for the quarterly is I take the results of G80, which is the monthly total, and times it times 2. So then I have 3 months for those monthly pairs. And then that takes me to the monthly cash flow average. And also it tracks quarterly and yearly. And how I get the monthly, of course, is it's taking the yearly average and divided by 12, and it's taking the quarterly average and divided by 3. Yeah. So you can see here the monthly, $823.99, quarterly almost up to $2,500, and annual almost up to $10,000 in dividends. You can see that also correlates to, I'm going to skip ahead over to the goals. You can see that the $10,000, I'm close to that goal. A couple of them I've already scratched off. 1,000 shares of SCHD. That was something I was looking to do. You can see we're at 1100 there. Crushed that goal. $225,000 portfolio value, we're not quite there. $900 a month average monthly dividend, not quite there. But again, close to that $10,000. And these are these links to look up dividend raises. I will go probably every day or two. I'll go over to Seeking Alpha and check to see if there's any announcements. Of course, I'm looking for that American States Water, Hershey's, and Kellogg's. Those are the three I'm looking for news on. And then what I do is I'll update them with a new dividend after they do their raise, and also update their dividend date and reshuffle the deck, so to speak. Same with it, dividend declarations. I go over there, do research as well. And it looks like I've covered everything except for strategy. And these things are optional in the sheet. You can either not have them, or if you already have your own sheet, I recommend having a strategy, because when the sky is falling and when things are dropping, it's good to have a strategy, and especially goals too. And you can see my current strategy right now is I invest $100 per week every Monday, and I auto invest it into M1. And all dividends received are reinvested into the company that paid them. And right now my rule is if a dividend is cut or suspended by a company, that stock will be sold. And I am a buy and hold investor. And we'll move just quickly to another tab. I'll show you how I track the portfolio value over time. I also put in the dividend received every month. I track the quarter on quarter. You can see how that's just been tracking upwards. The quarter on quarter percentage increase, the dollar increase. You can see the annual dividends in 2021, not even 1,000, almost 3,000 in 2022. And let's take a look at 2023. We're over $5,000 in dividends, crushing last year. And you can see this is when I started tracking the average monthly dividend. Since dividends are a little bit lumpy and they're not paid like a paycheck every month, unless you own something like O and that's it, you're going to have a variability in your payments. And that's why, again, I add up the quarter and divide it by 3 to smooth it out to come up with that average monthly dividend. You can see that's been increasing. Couple little exceptions here. JEPI lowered their dividend in February. SCHD lowered their dividend in March, but you can see we've recovered and some. You can see already in July, $6.06. You can see the month-on-month percentage increase with the dollar increase, and as well as the deposits here I've done. And just give you some kind of backstory in this portfolio. I started it with just kind of extra money, just like doing side hustles of selling things on eBay, selling video games, you name it, and just kind of keeping it as cash. And I didn't know what to do with it, and so I just decided to eventually put it into a portfolio a couple years later. And by that time it was at $18,700, and that's where we're at right now. And it really grew. You can see some money being dumped into this, and this was equity in a home I no longer own. Deploying that, putting that to work for me instead of having that cash just sitting there doing nothing. And it's so far it's been good. It's returned some money for me, of course, in the form of just on paper, but I'm not going to sell it. So let's take a look and see. Also, I track if there's any changes. Remember, I said SCHD lowered their dividend, but on December 7th, they increased their dividend. And that's when I started showing, I wanted to show the impact of things, of like dividend raises, also dividend cuts from like an SCHD or JEPI. Dividend drips, you can see it just every little thing, even a penny, I'm tracking it. You can see there's a dividend raises here. Let's see what else. But yeah, it's deposits, drips, dividend raises, or dividend cuts. You can see right here, but it's a ledger. You can see it's mostly going up. So I'm tracking that now. Last one was I did a monthly buy video where I put $100 into the portfolio and I bought some BST, and that increased my monthly income by 73 cents going forward. I also have another tab. This is really a net worth tab, and while I do focus on my dividend portfolio, here's everything I've got as far as the Vanguard, IRA, Roth, taxable, what's in my 401k. You can see I'm really heavy in, I have a lot in ETFs here. Almost $1 million of my net worth right there is in ETFs and not in individual stocks. So even though I'm pushing this dividend investing, of course this is not investing advice, but do your own research, but this is what I'm doing, and I think it's important to also track this and see where you're at as far as your net worth. I also track W2 income, expenses, I track the gap, I track everything. So you can see that is all being tracked here. I also started doing videos on my budget and kind of keep myself accountable and maybe show challenges that I have within my budget. The average Joe is not perfect with his spending, so but the key is of course to grow that gap and invest that gap. But I think that covers everything in this tracking sheet, but really mostly it's everything here just as a way to have a dividend stock tracker, so you don't pay for a service, you don't have to log into your brokerage all the time. You can kind of see some quick analysis right in front of you, and everything's right in front of you in real time. So that's all I had. Thanks for sticking to the end. If you got value from this video, please click the like button. Also subscribe and share this video with anyone who may want to see it. Everyone take care. Have a great day.